Welcome to TAP. My name is Manna. I'm so happy you are with me. I'm doing this recording to create something you can go to when you want to have a telepathic communication to someone. I want to create the ideal conditions for a telepathic communication to happen. And then that's all that we can do. Before we get started, I want to explain a little bit more about what I mean about telepathy. And I also want to just make a little disclaimer here, because I am an astrologer and I trust that we each have our path, and whatever we want, it's going to also be attracted to us. As we step further and further into our own healing, we're going to step into what is our life's path. So you could ask this question that I'm now trying to answer already. The question could be, why should I do something of a spiritual nature that's attracting something to me? This is what we're talking about today, is a mind-to-mind transfer. So why should I try to impose some of what I want into someone else? If you say, well, things are, you have your unique path, it's going to happen to you anyway. And I want to ask that question to someone who's really wise at some point in this podcast. So I'll make sure to do that at some point. But for now, my own answer is that a part of healing is really tapping into the spiritual resources that we have. So telepathic communication for me is an obvious one. Have you ever tried it where you think of someone and then that person calls, maybe right that instance, or maybe just the day after, where you hadn't thought about that person for a long time and then they appear again in your life? That is such a normal happening that we don't even consider it a cult, but it is. I mean, it's a spiritual resource in my point of view. So absolutely, we should use that. We should employ whatever we have. But life is like this. It's filled with paradox. A part of healing is definitely using our spiritual abilities. And in astrology, we talk about the soul as well. You can talk about it in a set of different ways. One way is to look at Pluto as very related to the soul and to our prime desire. We're not supposed to just ignore our desire, right? It is supposed to propel us forward into our path. In practices like this, we can definitely use this desire, imagining the desired action, and creating the conditions for it to actually come into reality. But it is a paradox, and it is an important conversation to have, I think, another day. Because something that I often think is, whatever you say, there's always astrology, or there's also astrology, meaning I have this opinion, I have this vision, I have this mission in my life, or this knowledge, whatever it is, and then we can see that reflected in the birth chart. And it's so incredible. But even if we always have that meta perspective and we can always see where does this come from, it doesn't mean that we are not supposed to unfold it. Quite the contrary, we are supposed to go with those impulses. So that's why I think something like mind transference it's fun to play around with. And I mean, it literally happens anyway. So this is just you coming into your power and trying to do something like this. It is a phenomenon within parapsychology. It's super normal. I don't want to pretend anything else. You can call it mental science, personal magnetism, and I'd say that it falls under the law of attraction in the thought world. That is, tele means afar, and pathy, pathos, is the feeling. Okay, so feeling someone at a distance. It's also called thought transmission, and maybe you can think of it as vibratory forces by mental activity. So vibrations led by mental activity. Or we can think of it as deeper messages even from the subconscious to a conscious receiver, or the other way around, right? So as we're working today, it's going to be mostly conscious, like we're going to be aware of what we want to send to someone else, what we want to reach into and reach the other person with. And in order for change to happen, the person doesn't have to be aware about this, okay? But if the person so you can already go ahead and choose a person if you want to do this with me. Choose a person that you want to influence and that you want to connect with in their subconscious or conscious. We're not really masters of that, right? But if this person that you're choosing is relaxed, he or they are going to be more able to receive the telepathed impression, because the idea here is that otherwise it's going to be blocked by the analytic mind. So ideally, the person that you're trying to contact here is going to be relaxed. Okay, so just to inspire us, I want to read something from a book called The Reach of the Mind. J.B. Rhine was an American professor of psychology at Duke University, and he conducted more than 100,000 experiments and tests, and he succeeded within the scientific boundaries, so he himself being a scientist. So what is proven is that it's not just a result of a random chance, something that just happened. Mind transference can actually be seen as the effect of thoughts combined with deeper feelings, and as such you can say that it's not supernatural, that it's an absolutely normal phenomena, that feeling, mental activity holds this power, this seed in them that can be realized. But when it involves another person, I do think it can fall under that category of being extraordinary. It was published in 1947. Yeah, it's a while ago. We have 2024 now. And I still feel it's really valuable. So let's read it. Telepathy was the first psychic capacity to be scientifically studied. It was reasoned that if thought can be transferred directly from one mind to another without the use of the senses, man must possess mental powers transcending brain mechanics. Proof of telepathy then would be a successful refutation of materialism and its physical theory of the mind. In the period of profound intellectual disillusionment which the last century created, telepathy offered a measure of hope, and of all the psychic claims, it was the most actively investigated during the early decades of physical research beginning in the 80s, and that is the 1880s. Belief in telepathy is probably as old as mankind. We can assume that it was familiar in the earliest times from the fact that mind-reading powers were attributed to the divinities. Telepathy was important enough in ancient Greece to produce a theory by Democritus and how it worked. Many references to instances that look like thought transference between human beings appear in the older literature, especially in those dealing with religion and with the founders of the sects. Such instances, however, are hardly of more than historic interests. They are not as impressive or convincing as more recent modern examples which can be better authenticated. But they do help to illustrate the fact that belief in the occurrence of telepathy is a part of the cultural tradition of the human race. The earliest experiments in telepathy were incidental to hypnotism or mesmerism, as it was called. In the course of putting subjects into hypnotic trance, some experimenters discovered effects which they attributed to thought transference from the hypnotist to the subject. It was natural to suppose that this phenomenon was a feature of the hypnosis itself, and a number of studies were made on that assumption. Telepathy tests of several kinds thus emerged from the hypnosis work. And I'll skip a part here and dive back in. The 1920s saw a marked rise of interest in telepathy. It was paralleled by a similar increase of public interest in spiritualism, and was doubtless affected by it. The tremendous loss of life and the widespread bereavement which took place during the First World War, together with the ensuing uncertainties and shifting of values, undoubtedly had the effect of turning man's thoughts toward the possibility of forces beyond the knowledge of science. Countless men and women felt the need of something more than purely physical explanations of life and death. A mass telepathy experiment was conducted by radio over the Zenith broadcasting station in Chicago in 1923, and a little later, the British Broadcasting Corporation conducted another. Later still, the Scientific American magazine carried out a self-testing program in telepathy, and there were numerous other manifestations of popular interest. And he goes on to describe the experiments, and later he says, from all the comparative evidence, it looked as if telepathy and clairvoyance were essentially the same ability. They appeared to be merely different manifestations of a general process of extrasensory perception capable of apprehending both subjective and objective states of reality, both thoughts and objects. The combined evidence for telepathy and clairvoyance made a strong case for the occurrence of extrasensory perception, and he later talks about how we have not yet tested either telepathy or clairvoyance over astronomical distances, since no known physical energy is unaffected by the distances on which we already have distance. Therefore, as things stand today, extrasensory perception must admittedly transcend the laws of physics with regard to space, and hence be essentially extra-physical. Even clairvoyance, that puzzling phenomenon involving both mind and matter in its reaction, has to be characteristically mental and not a primarily physical process, because it too has been demonstrated to be free of spatial dependence. And so there are many stories. This is one book. There are several other books. I've also been inspired by the writings of William Hawkins, and we can see that this function, this faculty, and this power, you can call it a power of the soul, or this is where words become so locked in a way, where we have very few words for something quite complex, but it's a function, and it has been used, for example, in precognition work for solving a murder or something like that. Now today let's become more specific, because I could go on with reading all of this interesting stuff people have been writing back in the days, and where this first came more into the scientific consciousness anyway. But let's actually do it, right? We are here right now. Okay, so get yourself ready, get yourself comfortable, come into your restful mind and start to picture this person. Bring to mind who you want to influence. Imagine that you see him at the end of a long tube, where you are at one end and this person is at the opposite. And don't worry if your mind doesn't work like that you can't really visualize it. No worries. It's just an option to view this person is quite small now because he's at the other end of this tube. Okay, you can now send messages to him. And remember, this is just one way of working with it. If visualization doesn't work for you, something that's suggested in different texts is to write down what you want to say without sending the letter. And you could do this in a visualization as well. Imagine a big white paper in front of you and imagine what you want to say. Fill that paper with the words that you want them to hear. So you could do it here as a part of your visualization, where you write a letter and you are becoming really particular around what it is that you want to achieve. What reactions do you want from this person? What do you want them to do? What is your ultimate desire? Put it down to a piece of paper. Visualize it, or actually find a piece of paper and write it out. And notice how you feel as this person is positive and light towards you. Can you already feel how it's going to be? Can you already do a mental transfer of the outcome, how it's going to be when this person has done what you want them to do? But first, picture this person as being interested in you. Okay, so this person is interested, this person is curious, this person is open to what you have to say. And I don't know who you chose to work with. It could be someone that you would like more attention from. It's someone that you want to have call you. It could be someone that you know already or that you want to get to know. But you kind of have to work with some kind of specific entity, some kind of specific human being, and not just a question mark, because that's too widespread simply. So, but I'm practicing also with people that I don't know personally yet, but that I do want to get to know at that other end of the tube. Start to open up your heart. See what comes through. What is it that you really want them to know about you, about how you feel? And what is it that you want them to do to you and to your reality? And we're gonna give it some time here. I'm just gonna remind you during your journey what it is that we're doing. And as you imagine messages from you to the other person, realize that this is a powerful tool, and yet you're not striving, you're relaxed. You're just visualizing whatever it is you want with the other person. It could be that you want to access knowledge, something that this other person holds in their hearts, and that you want to also know in your heart, because you're really connecting to this other being on a deeper level. And if this being as someone that you know already, think of a time where you shared something really important together. So you're using a memory to open up this person's energy field to you so that you can tap into it and send all of what you want to send to them. Loving, positive vibes, messages about please contact me, whatever it is. And if you don't know this person, you can think of whatever you associate with them. So if it's someone you've been seeing in a movie or a band, or you have a photo of them. So use whatever works for you to tap into their vibe, this person's vibe, this entity's vibe. How do you know it? What do you know it to be? And feel that. And you can keep the image of being at one end of the tube, placing input into the tube, and it goes all the way to the other person. It doesn't matter how far this person is from you in real astronomical measures, but in your visualization, they're pretty close. They're going to receive whatever you toss in there. So make it good. What do you want them to know? What do you want them to do now? How do you want them to receive what it is you're giving them? How do you want this person to wake up in the morning? What do you want them to think about? What attitude do you want them to have towards you? Put it all in there with your intention. Don't worry if the visualization go off track at some point. That's normal. That's just your wild thought life. Just repair it again and come back in. See how it is that you want it to be. And send that energy into your person. And how do you do that? I'm not even gonna explain it, because you intuitively know. You know how to send energy. We're doing it all the time. Now you're doing it intently, consciously, because you want to. You're choosing this. And because you have the ability to. You can do this. So think of this person. You're in the very end of your telepathic communication. Just for one more moment, envision that person. And perhaps you're using light now. So you can fill the tube with light. And you can more freely see light shining out from your heart center into theirs. You are connected. Across time and space, you are connected, and now you are tapping into that. And through this telepathic communication, you are evolving your relationship. You're making it stronger, better, healthier, more loving. And you're bringing in higher powers to lift you both. And your intention is seen right now. It is coming through you. Whatever it is you will the other person, whatever you will them, has now reached their mind, has been impressed on them. And whenever they relax next, they're going to receive your message to them. And what they do with it, we cannot know about that. But what you do know is you've done the work. You've done the work to send your message across to them. You can always return back to this recording if you want to repeat it. For now, just start to come back into your body and connect to your environment. And however this mind-to-mind transfer was for you, I wish you, from where I am, which is probably far away from where you are, I wish you and I send you the most beautiful, loving energy, because I got plenty. Thank you for listening. I hope you found a place to call whole in this one, and meet you again in other chapters of TAP. My name is Manna, and you can reach me at therapeutic astrologer.com.